Wowzers! After Jonah disobeys God's command to go to Nineveh, not only does a storm break out, but he gets swallowed up by a big fish. Well, thankfully, we have a God who is forgiving, and he gave Jonah a second chance to make it right. That's the beauty of God's grace. Now, speaking of beauty, if you read the actual book of Jonah in the Bible, you'll notice that his prayer is there, the prayer to the Lord while he was in the fish. And it's written in a way that's almost like poetry. It's written so beautifully and eloquently. Yep, just like a poem. Boys and girls, did you know that in our church we have a really talented poet? Yes. And I'd like to bring her on today. So, joining us live via satellite in Mr. Ollies Arcade, please say hi to Miss Evasia. Hello, Miss Evasia. Thank you for coming to Mr. Ollies Arcade.
Hi, Mr. Ollie, and hi, everyone.
All right, well, let's start with getting an update. How have you been, and what have you been up to?
Oh, I've been doing well. Actually, I'm a PE teacher, so I've been teaching online to my students in the morning and doing some lessons. And then in the afternoon, I make sure, and I love nature and God's creation. So I get outside, I go walking or bike riding, rollerblading, and I even went paddleboarding the other day.
Well, Miss Evasia, you have a God-given talent of writing poetry. Would you mind sharing with us today your testimony on how that came to be?
Yes, I've actually been writing for about 30 years. And what's interesting about that is I write poetry, but I never had an interest in poetry. I don't read poetry books, but I remember when I first moved out here, I was driving and all of a sudden this song came to my head. And it kept going through my head. It wasn't a song I had ever heard. And so I went and I wrote it down. And then shortly after that, I started writing poetry, and I would write a Christmas poem every year and send it out.
So tell us about your creative process. How do you get the ideas in your head and then put them from pen to paper or from fingers to keyboard?
So, as I started writing the Christmas poetry, I started realizing I would go to these prayer meetings and I would get poems all the time, and I would just write them out. And it was scary sharing them. I would share them with a group of my friends, and then I would start writing poetry more and more, and I'd write them about my feelings and what God was saying. And then about 2 or 3 years ago, I was introduced to a process called Emmanuel writing.
The Emmanuel method. What's that?
Now, in this process with Emmanuel writing, it's based on prompts. It's not just, Emmanuel means God is with us. And so when we pray, a lot of times it's a one-way conversation. I'm asking God for things that I might need or my friends might need, my family members. But in this, God is also speaking back to me. So the first thing that I do is I write what I'm thankful for. And then the rest of it is I'm listening to what God is saying to me. And I write off of these writing prompts, and they are, I see you, I hear you, I understand how big this is for you, I am near you, and I will do this for you. These are based on God's promises. And the way that I got into that is the Lord said to me, I remember I was rollerblading one day, and he said, Evasia, if you want to learn to hear my voice, you have to learn to hear the sounds of nature. And at that time I was rollerblading, and I was trying to listen to some messages or learn Japanese. And he said, take your headphones out, and I want you to learn to hear the sounds of nature so you can hear my voice. Now, I'm not saying listening to that is bad, but for me, it was the way that I connected to God. And instead of writing just a Christmas poem and an occasional poem, from that point on, I would write a poem every week. And I've been doing that for almost 3 years.
Oh, I see now. Okay. So, if the boys and girls watching want to get into poetry and want to start writing on their own, what kind of advice would you give them?
So my suggestion for you is get outdoors, or start to jot down your feelings, or jot down and then ask the Lord, Lord, how do you see me? And then let him talk back to you saying, I see you. I hear you. I know how big this is for you. I am near you, and I will do this for you. Those are based on the promises that he says in his word. And then it's like him having this two-way conversation instead of it being a one-way, and now it's a two-way conversation. So I encourage you during this time, do this as a family. Go for a walk around the block, go to the park and walk or ride your bikes, and then come back and write about it. This is a time that you will never experience like this again. So take advantage of it, but be safe. And I look forward to seeing you again. And I can't wait to hear some of the stories that you're going to write and then what God is going to speak back to you. Have a great day, have a great week, and I can't wait till we can worship together again. See you.
Thank you for sharing that, Miss Evasia. Boys and girls, did you know that Miss Evasia wrote a special poem for today? Yes, it's based on the book of Jonah. And we're going to show it to you right now, okay? So, please enjoy.
I cried to the Lord in this trouble, and the Lord, he answered me. Do you see all this homework and all this calamity?
I see you in this trouble, and I see all the things you go through. But I am doing something greater that is bigger than what you have to do. I see you trapped in your walls and when you cannot see your friends. But this is a new beginning when you think it is the end. I hear the thoughts you're thinking that you just want to get back out. But for me to heal completely, I have to heal your fears and doubts. I know that there are questions that the experts don't have the answers to. But I am your sure foundation, and my promises are always true. So what are the promises that I have spoken in my word? Write them upon your doorposts and read them out so they are heard. And as we go through this together, then together stronger we will be. Because my promises will sustain you. The superpower of the Trinity.
Alright, well that about wraps it up for this edition of Mr. Ollie's Arcade. Now, you'll notice that we didn't have any questions. Well, we're going to put the questions at the end of our program, okay? So, once this program airs, then we'll have the discussion questions, and then you'll have the time with your parents and family to go over them, alright? Okay, well, that about wraps it up for this edition. I'll see you next week, all right? Thank you for coming to Mr. Ollie's Arcade. All right, bye-bye.